Can the number 1 seed Seattle Seahawks protect home turf and defeat the San Francisco 49ers on Saturday?
This is Locked On Bets, the daily betting show that means business from the Locked On Podcast Network. Hosted by Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers, they're dropping fearless picks with an inside edge to put money in your pocket. If there's action, they've got the lock. This is where smart bets start. It's Locked On Bets.
Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Locked On Bets. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports with you. And as always, we appreciate you making Locked On Bets your first listen of the day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Got a couple college basketball games to look at. Over 60 games on the schedule tonight. We're going to pass to the NBA, but we're going to begin, Lee, in the NFL as the Seahawks and 49ers lock horns coming up on Saturday.
Open it, open it, open it! Lee has the key to the lock of the day.
The road team won each of the two meetings this season between the Seahawks and 49ers. San Francisco went into Seattle in week 1 and picked up a victory. Niners ended up losing to the Seahawks at home in week 18. So Seattle grabbed the number 1 seed. San Francisco all beat up. George Kittle got hurt last week in their win over Philadelphia. So with all that being said, Lee, the Seahawks a shade over, a touchdown favorite at home coming up on Saturday. What do you like?
Yeah, it was crazy. These two teams, I think the scheduling sometimes in the NFL is just horrendous. How do you have a team playing the first week of the season, interdivision, and then the last week? There's sometimes they're playing 2 weeks apart like Chicago and Green Bay. Makes no sense. Make it at least a month apart, but not almost the entire season. First game, San Francisco went into Seattle and absolutely dominated, 38-22, almost. It's like 37 and change, almost 38-22 time of possession edge for San Francisco. By far the better team. They win 17-13. Then the last week of the year, Seattle goes into San Francisco and absolutely flips the script, almost a 38-22 edge and wins 13-3. And that game should have been a blowout. They probably should have won that game like 26 or 28-3, total domination. So both games also 150-yard edge for the victor. What is the difference now? Seattle's healthier. Seattle's defense also is much, much better. Number 1 in EPA per play allowed. Also, Seattle more consistent during the season. 14-3 straight up, 12-5 against the spread, 28-17 average margin score this year. Do I love both quarterbacks? No. But do think that you just can't trust Brock Purdy right now. Brock Purdy right now, his arm strength isn't there, never was great. And you got to think that defensive line is going to put pressure on him. And the one problem I do have with Seattle is sometimes when they're backed up near their end zone, they do turn the ball over. But they are at home. It is going to be absolutely nuts there. And San Francisco, without Kittle and without many other key players, their pass rush, this is just not the same team. So I know they're going in with a chip on their shoulder. They have nothing to lose, but they beat a very flawed Philadelphia team and also a Philadelphia team that just wasn't right mentally. Seemed like the whole year also. So I think San Francisco's time is up. Clock's going to strike 12 here. Seattle, lay the 7.5 over San Francisco. This is going to be a level 2 lock. And also, not only do I like them against the spread, also like them a lot if you want to do a 2-team 6-point or 2-team 7-point teaser. Put this with another game, move the line 6 or 7 points. I just can't see Seattle losing. They'd have to turn the ball over 3 or more times. Just don't see it happening.
And also, too, if you remember back to week 1, that was Sam Darnold's first start with the Seahawks after he came over from Minnesota in the offseason. It was still a close game, and San Francisco scored late to beat Seattle back in week 1. And the Seahawks also regaining home field advantage. I felt like they lost for about a year or two. They struggled at home, were better on the road. They were still good on the road this year, but better at home. So we'll see how that turns out coming up on Saturday at Lumen Field between the Seahawks and the Niners. So we're still trying to figure this one out, Lee. Are any of the head coaching vacancies going to get filled? Now we have another one with Mike Tomlin announcing he's done. Was he fired? We don't really know all the behind the scenes stuff. It feels like they needed a bit of a divorce, that Tomlin needed to move on and Pittsburgh needed to go a different direction. But first, your thoughts with Tomlin. And look, he had that long playoff losing streak, but the one thing I'll give him, he kept the Steelers relevant for a very, very long time with a slew of quarterbacks that really either weren't great or over the hill.
Yeah, they just couldn't acquire that quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger retired. And towards the end, Ben Roethlisberger his skills had certainly declined, but the offensive line was bottom 2, bottom 3 in the NFL. So I think it worked both ways. I don't think just out of the blue he said, I'm done. He realized that he just couldn't turn this team around. I think he's going to take a year and probably, do something as far as broadcasting is concerned, and then open up his options. The good or bad thing for him, some other team's going to have to pay if they want to hire him because he's still under contract. So, they should have just said, I think the better thing for another team, if they do want to pursue him, what are they going to get? A 6th, 7th rounder? You don't pay a 3rd or 4th rounder for something like that. Although a good coach, and he could obviously change the culture for a team, let's say like the Dolphins, that is absolutely soft. But are you going to give up a 2nd, 3rd, 4th rounder for a coach? When you need those picks, when you're up against the cap and also have no talent on your team, I wouldn't do it. So, there seems like Kevin Stefanski's under the radar. He might be a guy that, has been with just a horrible franchise in Cleveland, won 11 games twice, and also, might need a change of scenery. He might be the guy that some of these teams are looking at. Some people are talking about Chris Shula. You like the name, former. He's the he's the grandson of Don Shula and Mike Shula's son. So he might be the guy. He's a defensive guy, but I don't know if he's going to give you a Mike Tomlin toughness. So he's at the Rams. They have a decent defense, pretty good, but a lot of these guys out there, there's no one that looks like the home run hire.
I found this nugget kind of interesting so the Steelers have had 3 coaches since 1969, Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin, that the Eagles are going on their 5th offensive coordinator in 5 years, which is unbelievable with them getting rid of their offensive coordinator. Kellen Moore had gone to New Orleans last year, and we see how just the offense wasn't good. It was as simple as that. They just weren't good this year, and that had to do with, in a sense, Philadelphia's plight. And yes, they won the NFC East, but at the same time, the Commanders weren't good. The Giants weren't good. Dallas was too inconsistent. The Eagles kind of won that by default, but really they couldn't get past any of these other teams once you got into the playoffs. Well,
it also shows you Jalen Hurts needs to have everyone around him very good. I don't think he's that good a quarterback. So when you got a receiver bitching like A.J. Brown, that certainly hurts you. Your offensive line, injuries and guys retiring, that didn't help him. He doesn't have everything perfect. If he was on Arizona, they would have been talking about benching him after week 4, week 5. Just not a real good quarterback. He had Saquon Barkley, top 3 running back behind him, and 2 really good receivers and a really good tight end. His offensive line this year was mediocre, maybe a little less than average, and he did nothing. So I think he needs more of the blame, and the press just doesn't want to go after him.
All right, so let's move now, Lee, to some college basketball, and looking forward to a couple of these games tonight. Let's start in the Mountain West with tonight's Hidden Gem.
To find a diamond in the rough, you need to dig a little deeper for those hidden gems.
Oh, Lee, we're digging here. San Diego State 5-0 inside the Mountain West Conference, taking that dreaded trip to Wyoming. No disrespect to the state of Wyoming. I just mean more of it's just not an easy trip to make. And San Diego State off a blowout of Fresno State. We're going to go with the Wyoming Cowboys here, getting 1.5 against the San Diego State Aztecs this evening. A couple things here. Number one, Wyoming has not lost back-to-back games this year, coming off a 9-point defeat to Nevada. Now, you shouldn't just base all of your handicapping on that. They have not lost consecutive games. Also, Nevada shredded them. 10 of 16 from 3, over 70% effective field goal percentage. Usually when you don't perform well defensively, you're going to step up defensively the next game, and that game was on the road in Reno at Nevada. And coming up, there's really no look ahead for Wyoming. They got Fresno State coming up Saturday. So that's really the game they're focusing on tonight is San Diego State. And the Aztecs coming up, they got some big games. New Mexico's a huge game coming up at home on Saturday. And this line is at 1.5. I'm going to take the points with Wyoming. You can even money line them. I think Wyoming will pull off the victory tonight over San Diego State. And the Aztecs also struggled from three-point range the last couple games. They're very good shooting threes, but they've struggled from long distance. Let's go with Wyoming over San Diego State in the Mountain West as our hidden gem.
I don't like that play. I love that play. I've been watching a lot of Wyoming Cowboy basketball late at night, and I was tipped off to them being an underrated team and also a much improved team. They had to make over the roster in 2 years, and they've done it. Not that they're a tournament team, but they're a competitive team. Like I said, just ran into a red-hot Wolfpack team in their last game, and that happens sometimes. But I expect them to bounce back and don't fall for the trap here and take San Diego State because they're 5-0 in conference. This is certainly a trap game for them.
And also Sundance Wicks, one of the great coaching names, came from Green Bay. And you know who replaced him at Green Bay, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Radio host Doug Gottlieb. So, yes, Sundance Wicks back at Wyoming. That's where he was before. So he took that job in the Mountain West. We'll see if they can pull off the win tonight over San Diego State. Coming up, by the way, before we hit the break, we were 2-1 last night on our picks, and I lost with Oregon. Nebraska, give them all the credit in the world. They crushed Oregon. But Lee did hit his two winners in the NBA, Oklahoma City. They finally beat San Antonio. It took them 4 shots, but also Texas A&M, they were leading that whole game against Tennessee. They lost in double overtime, but covered. So guess what we have? Another SEC game coming up. So we're going to talk about Arkansas and South Carolina. That is straight ahead. You are listening to the Wednesday edition of Locked On Bets. Let's talk now about FanDuel. And you know what time it is. It is NFL playoff time. We're headed to the divisional round coming up on Saturday, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode every game day during the NFL playoffs. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. So what you can do is open your profit boost pack first thing on game day, and you can see what boost you want to apply. And look, you got a lot of options here with the 4 fantastic games coming up this weekend in the NFL. You have sides, you have money lines, you have totals, you also have player props. There are so many things you could bet on with these games to keep the interest high, and the boosts give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of trying to bet something new that maybe isn't what you're preferring. So check these all out. You make your picks and you apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs keep rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. We continue here, Locked On Bets on a Wednesday. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports. And now we go to the SEC, where it matters more. They're the only conference that matters, and no other conference that matters. Only the SEC it matters more. So that's what we got tonight. Arkansas and South Carolina. We'll see what Cal does against the Gamecocks. And tonight's blowout special.
Oh, boy. Last one out, turn off the lights. This one's a blowout.
All right, let's see what Arkansas can do here. Lost to Auburn over the weekend, and now they come home for South Carolina. The Gamecocks, they beat LSU, and then they were leading most of the game against Georgia, ended up losing that game at home. So now they make the trip to Fayetteville to take on the Razorbacks. So, Lee, will Cal get the troops back on board tonight against South Carolina?
Well, sometimes I play players and sometimes just coaches. And this might be where you just play the coach. So they did lose to Auburn Saturday by 22, getting just 2.5. John Calipari, after a loss, look at his career, likes to crack the whip. Let's look at this year. Just alone 3 other times besides that Auburn loss. They lose to Houston. They beat James Madison by 29, laying 23. Lose to Michigan State. Beat Central Arkansas by 37, laying 35. Lose to Duke. They did cover that game. They were They were getting 12.5. They lost by 3 points. They ended up beating Louisville by 9. Do you see the pattern? And I just looked at his face. You could tell he was so upset with their performance. So I expect the practices to be tough. And I think this is a talented team that can score. South Carolina, who have they lost to this year? Well, some pretty good teams, Clemson, Vandy, and Georgia. But they've also lost to Butler, Northwestern, and Virginia Tech. They've only been blown out once by more than 12 points. This is going to be the second time, in my opinion, tonight here. Sometimes you got to lay it if you want to play it here. This is going to be a blowout special just for John Calipari here. Arkansas minus 10.5 over South Carolina. Easy winner. Could be over by halftime.
Yeah, and South Carolina off that tough loss to Georgia. Sometimes when you're off a tough home loss, it's hard to get up for the next game, especially now making the road trip after a couple games at home. So we'll see how Arkansas responds after their loss to Auburn. So, Lee, with the NFL playoffs beginning this weekend, and again, we didn't talk about it today, but when we get later in the week, the College Football National Championship, Miami and Indiana, coming up next Monday at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. What's going on with Paramount Sports as far as some deals and what people can look for?
All right, so I think a lot of these lines are going to move. Well, for instance, the Miami line yesterday moved from Indiana minus 7.5 to 8.5. So we're going to be following the line move. So you want to make sure you're liking and subscribing to us here on YouTube and all the other major platforms, because we're going to release possibly on Thursday and Friday two different podcasts. So make sure you're liking and subscribing so you get notice when it's released, so you can get the best possible line. But we're going to cover probably almost every single other game in the NFL playoffs here, Saturday and Sunday, 4 total. So we got 3 more, and also the national championship game. Also, we'll probably release a couple shorts. So make sure you're subscribing so you receive notice right away to get on these winners here. We're 5-1 this week. Let's keep rolling. And you want to get all my selections this round here, NFL and college football championship game. You want to get them first. 5 selections. It's Lee's Fab 5, just $75. One place, ParamountSports.com.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as Lee said. Check us out, Locked On Bets on YouTube, as well as our podcast on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. Type in Locked On Bets and you'll be all set. For Lee Sterling, I am Kevin Rogers. We'll talk to you again coming up on Thursday right here on Locked On Bets as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.